Another day, another departure. Hazel Blears deciding this was the most appropriate moment to follow the Home Secretary's lead and inform the boss she no longer wished to be part of his administration. In a statement that failed to mention the Prime Minister once, Ms Blears said, "I'm returning to the grassroots where I began, to political activism, to the cut and thrust of political debate. Most of all, I want to help the Labour Party to reconnect with the British people, to remind them that our values are their values, that their hopes and dreams are ours too." Those close to Mr Brown were quick to argue Ms Blears was taking a cheap shot, the local government secretary leaving the day before what are expected to be tough local election results for her party. Yet with two cabinet ministers going, thus far, joined by other more junior ministers, no surprise there were questions about the PM's leadership.
Why doesn't the Prime Minister accept that his ability to command his cabinet has simply disappeared?
Speaker, I think the first thing that the whole House would want to do is to acknowledge the great work that has been done by both the Home Secretary and the Community Secretary in the Cabinet.
But simply listing their achievements was not enough to mask the nature of their departure.
Let us be clear about what is happening. The Minister in charge of local government is resigning the day before the local elections. Isn't the fact that she's chosen today, of all days, to go, a direct challenge to his authority?
I think some people should take a step back here and understand what's been happening. Yes, there are elements of party politics that the right honourable gentleman wants to raise, but I think he's got to acknowledge that on all sides of the House there are issues that people want to sort out.
Yet the government's most pressing issue is this seeming inertia over the future of those at the top of government.
Let's take just one key individual, the person responsible for steering us through this recession, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Will the Chancellor, sitting there in front of us, still be in his post in a week's time?
Let me say what this Chancellor is achieving. This Chancellor is leading the rest of the world in taking us out of recession. This Chancellor has taken action the Conservative parties refused to support. What happened when we had to deal with the banks?
But again, what of his future?
If the Chancellor is doing such a good job, can he tell us, will he be there in a week's time?
I said the Chancellor is doing a very good job, and I hope he would agree with me.
Ed Balls has been tipped to replace Mr Darling, and there could yet be further changes in the very highest offices of government.
The government is collapsing before our eyes. Why doesn't he take the one act of authority left to him? Get down to the palace, ask for a dissolution, call that election.
His government is paralysed by indecision, crippled by infighting, exhausted after 12 long years. It's a tragedy that exactly at the time when people need help, need action, the country doesn't have a government, it has a void. Labour is finished.
It was the unorthodox announcement of Jackie Smith's departure that first gave the impression the cabinet reshuffle was unravelling. Yet it was she who this morning toured the TV studios, reassuring the public that the Prime Minister was in command of both the country and his party. Yet even she conceded things were not happening quite as Labour would have hoped.
I'd rather it hadn't come out for me yesterday. That wasn't the plan. But it's not unprecedented for people to say in advance of a reshuffle, actually, I will be leaving government. It actually frees up the Prime Minister to make the decisions that are rightly his to make at the time of his choosing.
But is that really the case? Number 10 say there's unlikely to be any ministerial movement ahead of the Prime Minister's return Saturday evening from the Normandy commemorations. In the interim, there's an all-important set of elections that nobody's talking about. Cabinet ministers are resigning, making noises about their own position, or giving the impression that even they don't know what's going on.
Can I get one recorded answer from you?
I'll tell you what I'm doing is I'm going to a school gate in my constituency.
Oh, can I just ask you quickly? I mean,
no, because I really must go.
Your colleagues are in a panic about how things are at the moment.
The government's uncertainty and loss of direction is being detected by voters and also by backbenchers with small majorities.
But your colleagues are dreadfully worried about the situation.
Not a tenable state of affairs in the long term, so when will this be resolved?
So why don't I catch up with you later on today, yeah?
David Cameron has attempted to make Thursday's elections a referendum on Gordon Brown.
Well, it's great to be here. I'm afraid I can't be with you very long because if you stay out of Westminster too long, by the time you get back, another minister's resigned.
Yet even the man many Labour figures tip as Gordon Brown's replacement says there's only one choice being presented to the electorate.
If you saw Prime Minister's questions, you see someone who's determined, who's poised, the courage, the tenacity of Gordon Brown. He's doing the job, and he's doing it under difficult circumstances, made more difficult for him, but he's doing the job, and there's absolutely no one who could do that job better.
couldn't you do it better?
No.
Quite sure about that.
Yet the longer the uncertainty continues,
Prime Minister, are you resigning?
the greater the number asking that very question. Niall Paterson, Sky News, Westminster.